Hello beautiful people, my name is Jane and welcome back. Thank you guys for joining me on today's video and happy holidays. Hope you guys had a very good holiday. In today's video, everybody that has been following my channel knows that I always talk about communication, how important it is to be able to communicate in a relationship. Now, I feel the need to make this video on how to communicate effectively in your relationship because lots of the things that we know that we're able to understand about each other comes from communicating, comes from being able to talk to each other. And if you're not able to talk to your partner or you're not able to understand your partner when they're talking to you, there's so many things that could go wrong in your relationship because of this reason. So that's why I'm making this video on how to communicate effectively, how to go about saying the things that you want to say, saying it in a way that the person you're saying them to understands what you're saying and they're able to understand you, and also how to understand what your partner is trying to say to you. So the first most important thing that you need to consider when you're trying to say something to your partner is timing. The timing has to be right. If you really know the person that you're dating, if you really know the person that you're in a relationship with, you know that there are some talks, there are some conversations that you just can't have just anywhere at just any time. There are things that when you want to talk to somebody, you have to first of all look at their mood, look at their day, what has happened so far before you bring such talks. It's not just any time that you feel like, okay, I want us to have a conversation out of the blue without even checking around to see whether this is the right time for this kind of conversation. You just bring it up. There's a very high chance that if you meet somebody at a time when they are not really ready to have certain types of conversations, they're not going to listen to you and you're not going to get the best results from that conversation. So timing is very, very important, and you need to know your partner to know the right time to have the right conversations. The second one is you need to process your feelings first, especially when you feel like you've been hurt, you feel like somebody has done something that you don't like, they have spoken to you in a way that you don't like, or they've, for whatever reason, when things happen and you're hurt or you're emotional and you're trying to speak or trying to communicate from that place of hurt, of confusion, of emotion, you're not often very articulate with your words. You're not able to speak clearly because you've not processed your thoughts, you've not processed what you're feeling, you're just speaking from that place of hurt. And most times when you speak from the place of hurt, you're not trying to resolve an issue, you're not trying to tell the person exactly what it was that they did. Most times you're often just complaining or even criticizing. And most times when you speak to a person in a way that makes them feel like you're condemning them or you're trying to judge them or whatever, they get defensive, right? And when a person gets defensive when you're trying to express yourself, they're not going to listen, they're not going to hear you. Even if they listen, they're not going to hear you. They're just going to hear your judgment, your condemnation, and then they feel the need to defend themselves to prove to you that this is not how they are. Like, what are you saying? Instead of you being able to get the result that you're looking for, which is resolution or understanding, then move forward, what is going to happen is that it's going to blow out of proportion and it's just going to get messy, basically. So for a person, because I know there are people that try to address things head on, which is a very good thing. I understand, being a person that was not very expressive, understanding why you need to be expressive, and then now you feel like if you don't speak up at the moment, you might never speak up, and if you don't speak up, then you end up piling all these things up, and the day that you do speak up is like an explosion. It blows out of proportion. So because of that reason, you might feel like when things happen, you want to address them head on, you want to say them head on so that it's out there, everybody knows what's up. Can be a good thing, but at the same time, you need to be able to say the right words, to say the right things, not just speak, but be able to speak articulately, be able to say, this is what it is, this is what happened, this is how it made me feel, this is why I don't like it, this is what I don't like, and this is what I would like you to change. That way that's a very articulated way of speaking. right? Instead of just going round and round, you're talking about this, then you move over to this, and then you're talking about the other one, and then that's not going to get you the result that you're looking for. So you need to be able to process your feelings first before you speak to your partner or you express yourself to your partner. The third one is, when you want to communicate effectively, first you need to be open-minded. Understand that you're not perfect too. Yeah? And the thing that you feel like the other person did, there's a very high chance that you might have understood it from another angle. You might have understood it in a way that they didn't mean it. It's a possibility. So when you're talking to somebody or you're trying to communicate or converse or express yourself to somebody, be open-minded. When you're done speaking, let them also be able to speak. And when they are speaking, don't be defensive. Try to listen, try to understand. I know that there are people that listen just to reply. There are people that whenever their partner is trying to talk to them, they're not listening to you to be able to understand what it was that happened and how to move forward. Once you open your mouth, they're already defensive. They're waiting for you to speak, and they're just trying to prepare their response already down for you. So as you're speaking, they're giving you their response. And also, I've also noticed there are people that once you open your mouth to talk to them, please, this is what you did that I did not like, they will respond with, what about you? You that used to do this, you that used to do that, the other day, last year, last 2 years, you also did this. There are people that use other people's expressions or other people's need to communicate with them to also condemn them. Instead of looking for a way forward, you're trying to put the person down. You're trying to downplay their feelings. You're trying to downplay their emotions. What's going to happen is that this person is going to stop communicating with you because they can't communicate with you. They can't talk to you. So they're going to stop talking to you. And that's how resentment starts to build. That's how things will happen. A person will not say passive aggression. They will not speak their mind because they know that once they open their mouth, you're going to turn it around on them. So that's not going to help anybody. It's not about winning an argument. Nobody's calling you to bar. You're not a lawyer. It's not about winning an argument. It's basically about two people that care about each other, that love each other, trying to communicate effectively. So it's not about when he or she opens his or her mouth to talk to you, you're responding with, what about you? What about last year? What about yesterday? What about tomorrow? That's not going to move anybody forward. If anything, it's going to damage your communication with each other, and you don't want that. So that's very important. I said what I just said now. Another very important thing to note is that there are two types of communications. There are two ways that you can talk to a person. You can either make a complaint or make a criticism. Yeah? When you're trying to complain, you're using the I statement. You're telling somebody what happened, how you saw it, how it made you feel, and why you would want that to change. And if possible, you're also offering solution, how that can be better. That's a complaint. Now, criticism is you condemning the other person, telling the person how they are always. Let me give you an example. Let's say there's a couple, right? Two people living in the same house, and let's say the man or the woman doesn't like noise when they are reading, and the other person likes playing music loud. Yeah? The other person knows that, okay, this person doesn't like sound or noise when they are reading. So when they are trying to play their music, they lower it. But because this person is very sensitive to sound, even this person's lowering of the volume is still going to be loud for this person. So when they are playing their music and you're trying to read, it's not that loud, but it's still loud for you. You can come up to them and say, please, I'm trying to read and I can't concentrate. Can you please use your earphone or try to lower the volume further so I can concentrate? This person would behave like a person that has sense, would either use earpiece, leave the place, or lower the volume further for your benefit. Or you can come in and you'll be like, why do you always do this? I have always told you that this is something that I can't stand, but you keep doing it. Why are you like this? What is wrong with you? Now, when you say it that way, the other person automatically goes into the defense mode. Because now they're thinking, where is this coming from? Why are you talking to me like this? Instead of finding a solution, moving forward, now it's a back and forth, and before you know it, it gets messy. So That's a very important thing to note. That's why most times it's like, whenever I try to talk to you, you don't listen to me. You don't. How are you saying it? The way you express yourself, the way you say these things, go a long way in helping you get the results that you're looking for or not. So complaint, criticism. So the next one is when you're communicating or when you're complaining about something, have it at the back of your mind that you're trying to resolve a problem. Resolution and compromise should be at the back of your mind. You're trying to find a way to make this thing better. You're trying to find a way to move this thing forward. There are people that when they start complaining about something, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, they're still complaining about the same thing, repeating themselves over and over, being in a loop. Like, you've said it, this is what it is. Now, it's not just about you complaining or you telling the other person how bad they are, all the bad things that they've done. What you're trying to achieve is resolution. Because if you keep talking and talking and talking about the wrongs, the bad, for hours on end, for days on end, for months on end, you're not going to move forward. The only thing you're going to do is you're going to tire out the other person. At some point, they're going to just get tired of listening to you. So that's why it's always very good to process your thoughts, process your feelings, process your emotions first before you start talking to a person. Because when you've processed it, you've had time to breathe and say, okay, this was what happened. Yes. What was it about what happened that made me angry or that made me feel sad? This is what it was. This is what I want to change. So when you're talking to the person, you're telling them, this is what happened. This is how I understood it. This is what it is about what happened that made me feel bad. And this is what I would want you to change. Very direct. Resolution, compromise. And then it's now left for the other person that is listening to understand, not listening to reply, to say, okay, oh, sorry, this was what happened, yes. But this was why it happened. Or I didn't know it was going to be like this, or whatever it is. Allow them to explain to you. And when they are done explaining, it's now left for them to say, okay, I will compromise, okay, I will do this. So making resolution and compromise the goal of all your conversations or your complaints or your expressions. It kind of like makes communication a tool for you guys to move forward. You guys know that the reason why we talk, the reason why we share these things, the reason why we try to understand each other better is because we're trying to make something better. We're trying to make this thing better for us. And the whole point of me complaining or telling you something I like or don't like is to move us forward. It's not because I like hearing my voice. It's just me trying to tell you what it is so we're able to be in sync with each other. So when your partner is trying to express themselves, when you know that they're trying to understand something, trying to understand you better, they're trying to have clarity, then you know that you don't have to get defensive. You don't have to prove yourself to them. And if there is something that you're doing that is having a bad effect on your relationship and they're telling you, you do better, unless you don't care about this person, unless you don't want to be with this person. But if you really want to be in a loving relationship, then you need to understand that when they talk to you, it's because they are trying to understand you better. And that will also make you open. So when somebody's trying to express themselves, you're not closed off and like, don't. So just relax, right? Communication is good. And this will help your relationship. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is there's so many relationships where people are not comfortable talking to each other. And if you look back, you see that it might not have started that way, but at some point it became that way. So I'm going to be sharing the reasons why somebody might not be as comfortable talking to you as they once were, or might not just be comfortable. Maybe they were never comfortable talking to you. I know that it's not everybody that is very expressive. It's not everybody that is very articulate. It's not everybody that are really comfortable, depending on background, growing up and all those things. It's not everybody that knows that when they don't understand something, instead of assuming that it is like this, they have to ask you. It's not everybody that understands that. But there are people that do understand that wish their relationship would be more open, that they would communicate more, but there are just some things that you are doing or you might have done that has shut them down and they are not able to communicate with you anymore. So I'm just going to be mentioning a few of those things. The first one is you're not a good listener. See, if every time a person is trying to talk to you about their feelings, about what happened, about what they understood, and you're always interrupting, you're not letting them talk. As they are talking, you feel the need to defend yourself. You feel the need to shut them down. You feel the need to stop them from saying the things that they're saying. You don't want to listen to them. You're not listening to understand. You're basically listening to reply. You're basically listening to prepare your comeback, and your comeback has to be wavy. If you're always doing that when a person wants to talk to you, you'll get to a point where they will shut down. They will no longer feel the need to speak up. They will no longer feel the need to make things work. Like, try to understand, because they know that you will never make them understand. And I feel like this is very dangerous, because this is how resentment starts to build. This is how people get passive aggressive. This is how people start to pile things up inside until the day when they can't hold it back anymore and it just floods out. And it's always messy when that happens. So it's very important. If your partner does not talk to you, ask yourself, when they do talk to you, how do you react? How is your communication with them? Number 2, you're judgmental. If somebody is having a bad day, they made a bad choice, or there's a problem at work, whatever that happened, and they're trying to talk to you as their partner, and you're already beating them, they're already down. You don't need to push them any further. They already know that they messed up. You don't need to add to it. Somebody will tell you that they made a bad investment, and instead of you to listen to them, understand why this happened, you're trying to tell them how stupid they are, how they never do their due diligence, how they already know that they have messed up. You don't really need to beat them while they're already down. Or when somebody is trying to express about something that you did to them that they don't like, you're judging them. Say, you look at who is talking. You that you did this, you that you always live. You're not going to be able to communicate with each other if that's how you communicate. You're not going to be able to talk. When you feel like this person did something to you, you don't have to wait to tell them what they did at the time when they are telling you what you did. That's not going to get any result. If they did something to you that you don't like, tell them at your own time. You don't have to tell them when they're already telling you what you did to them that they don't like. That way, everybody just needs to defend themselves, and when you're being defensive, nothing gets resolved. Nobody is willing to make any compromise. So it's just going to be you throwing words at each other until everybody gets tired, and then everybody has to either, I don't know what happens at that point. The next one is you don't validate their feelings. If a person tells you that you doing this hurts their feelings, it's your job to validate it. Understand that this means this much to this person. It might not mean that much to you, but it means that much to them. And they don't have to explain why it means that much to them. If it means that much to them and you care about them, they mean that much to you. You do well. You behave better. The next one is when somebody tells you something when they are down and you put that to use against them in the future. They are never going to trust you, and they're never going to keep expressing themselves to you. They're never going to be that open with you if you always use the things they tell you against them in the future. That's sad, and nobody would like that. So if you're somebody that does that, gets people where they are vulnerable, and the things they say, you use that against them in the future. The next one is you don't make changes based on the things that has been talked about. If you guys talk to each other, say we don't want this, you had a misunderstanding, you spoke, you communicated, and you apologized, but you never make any changes. You apologize and then you go back to doing the same thing. The person will not feel the need to keep talking to you. They will not feel the need to keep expressing themselves, because at the end of the day, what's the point? You're still going to do whatever you want to do. The next one is when somebody is trying to express themselves to you, they're telling you something, you're listening. When they are done talking, you should be able to ask relevant questions, not questions that make the person question their own expressions. Ask relevant questions, questions that help you understand. It's not just for me, for you, but for us. The next one is, if in a relationship, two people are in a relationship and there's always one person that is always seeing things that needs to be talked about. If it's always one person doing the communication, always one person starting conversations, carrying the conversation, seeing it through, at some point the person will get tired. Why am I the one that always have things to talk to you about and you never have anything to talk to me about? If you're somebody that you feel like, I'm not a talker, I don't like talking, I don't like expressing myself, and you want to be in a relationship with somebody, first ask yourself the kind of relationship you want to be in. If you want to be in the kind of relationship where people don't talk, there are people that would also be down for that. But if you want to be in a relationship where you communicate and you communicate effectively, then you need to also learn how to express yourself and how to express yourself. I know there are so many other things that I might not have been able to talk about in this video when it comes to effective communication because of limited time, but these are the things that I have seen work, and these are things that I've also seen how they can undo a relationship. If there are other ones that I missed, please feel free to comment in the comment section and let me know, and check out some of my other videos as well, and I'll see you in my next video.